Hi, this is Greg with Best Choice Trailers. Today we're going to take a walk around the Lamar DL831227. So this is a 12-foot, 7-wide, 14,000-pound GVW. Shown here is what we would call our deluxe model. So we stock this in a standard configuration, and then this would be our heavier duty model. So let's take a walk around it. I'll show you all the standard features as well as the options that we put on, again, what we call our deluxe model. So a lot of what you see here is standard equipment. We'll specifically point out some of the extras that we add. So let's start with all the add-ons so you know exactly what we're putting on. So on our deluxe, we start by putting 14-ply rubber on. Anybody that's going to use a heavy-duty dump is probably going to want heavy-duty rubber underneath it. They're probably going to be hauling some decent loads. Instead of the traditional 10-ply radial tires, which would be a load range E, this has a 14-ply tire, which would be a load range G. These tires here get 110 pound of air instead of 80 pound. A lot stiffer sidewalls. Also, we figure if somebody's going heavier running gear, instead of traditional grease bearings, this has the upgraded oil bath bearings. If you're not familiar, grease is what's on most every trailer axle that's going to be under 7,000 and sometimes even including 8,000. Oil is what you get on medium duty axles. That's what would come on everything medium duty, even up to a tractor trailer is going to use an oil bath bearing. Reason for that, oil is going to disperse heat better than grease. You do need to keep an eye on oil to make sure, being that it's a thinner material, you got to make sure you don't lose any oil, but just give them an eye check. You can walk around and if you can see oil in them, you're good to go. So that's another feature on the heavy duty. Also, going back to the back, rear jack stands are something that we put on the heavy duty models. That way, if you're going to load something heavy, you can go ahead, pull a pin, let that come down to the ground, and use those whenever you're loading. Also, underneath the floor, we upgrade to a 12-inch on center floor. So in the industry, a lot are going to use a 16 on center. Some are spaced even farther. On this, we've went ahead and upgraded to a 12-inch on center floor. Also, we've done the charcoal powder coat with the black wheels. We just think that gives it a nice clean look. So let's look at some of the other standard features, because there's quite a few of them as well on this particular model. So if you look up front, first the trailer starts with that nice heavy I-beam frame. It's got the upgraded 12K jack instead of the traditional 7K jack you'd often see. It's got an adjustable coupler, which is cast, not stamped. Not only is it a cast coupler, but this is also an easy latching coupler. So as you would crank the trailer down onto the ball, it's actually going to auto latch. It's a nice coupler by Demco. They're one of the more premium products in this industry. It's got a nice heavy-duty bullnose style coupler. Certainly a tough-looking front setup on this particular unit with the heavy jack coupler and the bullnose with the I-beam coming out. Certainly a pretty rugged setup. It's got the 110-volt integrated charger that you can plug this into house current to keep your battery charged. It is a KTI pump, power up, power down hydraulics. It's got a battery cover. This is something that is pretty rare in this industry. This is the only manufacturer we've ever carried that I've ever seen that puts the battery in a separate box. Now the significance would be you got to cover over this area so you're not arcing if you were to throw something in the box itself. Of course, everybody says not to do it, but I would say the majority of people at some point have some metal object, be it a strap or otherwise, in this particular box area. Of course, it's got a 20-foot all-weather remote cord long enough to make it up to the bed of your truck, power up, power down hydraulics. It does have a disconnect in it. You can get a wireless remote with these if you choose. The 110-volt charger does have a tender inside there. Also, on this particular unit, they do an integrated circuit breaker instead of a fuse setup. So if you ever tripped it, you don't got to go hunting for parts. Also on these extra lines on the battery terminal, of course, these would be your power to the pump. These little guys, two, of course, would be for the 110 charger. The other two, this unit's got a charge line off the truck. Some people seem to think that just because you have this size whip that it can run direct off your truck, and that would be an incorrect assumption. There's 7 wires, one for each of those connection point pins coming back. This is actually the size of the charge wire some people refer to. That, I believe, on this is going to be a actually these would be your wires, this would be your 110. Those are actually a 14 gauge wire if you can read it there. That's only going to push about 3.7 amps. This is a 140 amp hour battery, so if you do the math, I think you're going to find about 40 hours of charging is what's needed to charge that battery, which is why the 110 volt charger is on there. If you're a heavy user, you might consider charging the battery every once in a while. That said, we've had some commercial users that, because this has a upgraded scissor hoist, which is pretty efficient, tell us that they don't have to charge the battery but one time in the spring and they're set for the year. So again, just keep that in mind. Some folks think this will run direct off a truck, which is not an accurate assessment. You can, however, get a charge line that's made out of 2 or 6 gauge that will run direct. We do keep them in stock, sometimes recommend them for fleet or commercial users. Moving back the trailer, they got gusseting where the tongue comes back to the mainframe, vertical uprights going down the side. See here the rigid rail, nice setup. A lot of manufacturers in the industry use a 2-inch top rail. This is a 3-inch. So instead of coming out and then down, this is a wider top rail that spreads the weight. If you were to put a bucket or similar on here, it comes down and then returns back to the body of the trailer. They did this for fleet rental users that wanted a tougher setup than what's normal in the industry. See this getting copied a little bit. Most manufacturers don't go to the trouble to build that heavy of a top rail. A couple other details. You notice a double broke fender instead of a standard single broke. The extra brakes in that fender make this particular setup stronger. You also notice it's got the gusseted return that also give additional strength to that fender area. We already talked about the tires and the bearings there, but these are Dexter 7,000 pound axles with the newer style never adjust brakes. These have self-tensioning brake assemblies that auto adjust similar to a car, so there's no need to manually adjust your brakes on something like this. These also have 9/16 studs, not your traditional 1/2 inch. Just another little detail that they put into these units to make them as tough as possible. This unit does have stake pockets to build your sides up if you choose to do so. We recommend you don't build a side more than the sidewall height, so with a 24-inch side, you could go up to another 24 depending on what material you're hauling. This not only has D-rings in the bed, but it's also got D-rings outside for additional tie-down points. These are a 4-inch D-ring. You'll commonly see in the industry a lot are going to use a 3-inch ring, so a little bit heavier ring on these. Notice up front they put them in the corners. At the back, to keep them out of the way, they put them toward the bottom of the sidewall. This is a 7-gauge one-piece floor. If you look around the industry, you'll notice most everyone's going to use a 10-gauge. 7-gauge is about a time and a half as thick. Instead of being an 1/8 inch, it's going to be 3/16. 3/16 is going to weigh about 2.5 pounds per square foot more. So on a 7x12 trailer such as this, 84 square feet times 2.5, you've got about 200 more pounds of steel in the floor of this particular unit. Notice they also take that rigid rail, take it to the back of the trailer. You've got your hook style ramp setups at the back, bar lock on the gate. This gate is a 3-way, meaning you can barn door as most commonly people would use. You can also pull the pin at the top, lay it down with the chain like a pickup truck style, or you can release at the bottom, set the depth gauge, and use it like a dump truck style setup. As mentioned earlier, we've got the rear stabilizer jacks. This trailer does have a 3-year structural warranty. Pull the brake away since we're going to put it up in the air in case it wants to roll a little bit. One thing you'll notice is pretty neat on these, they do a nestled bed frame. So you'll notice the bed frame sits inside the main frame. That's significant because without cheating or reducing or skimping or whatever you want to call it to get that, they've actually found a way to lower the deck height 4 inches without really sacrificing anything. It's just a smart design. That's what we refer to in the industry as a nestled bed frame. So you'll notice those cross members are made out of 3-inch structural channel. And as mentioned on the floor, we've upgraded to a 12-inch on center instead of a standard 16. Ramps on these are going to be just shy of 7 foot. They're a hook style ramp. Like most in the industry, it's a channel main frame with an angle iron runner. This unit does have a 5/16 scissor hoist. Scissor hoist mechanism is made out of tube steel, not an angle or channel. It's a nice heavy-duty scissor. Notice it's got a handful of zerks up top, certainly a handful more down bottom for serviceability. All the hydraulic wiring contained or clipped back in place. There's also a protector for the bottom of the scissor as well. Again, as mentioned, the I-beam is gusseted out going back. Notice there's an additional support on the fender. Going back the trailer, there's also J-hooks. You can tie a bungee cord to a tarp grommet. This does have a Deluxe Tarp Kit. We say deluxe because it's made out of actual aluminum instead of the traditional steel. It's got a nice sail bar with it, standard. It's a lot nicer tarp kit than what we sometimes see. Notice this also has a couple nice heavy-duty tube reinforcements running side to side to tie everything together. This does have a slipper spring suspension. You'll notice the grease there on it. That does have a wet bolt kit on it. A lot in the industry aren't going to have the grease zert on it, so you might get a little more wear on it. This one here is a little more serviceable. Dump angle on these is going to be about 45 degrees, pretty standard in the industry. A trailer like this is going to weigh in about 4,000 pounds. It's going to give you about 10,000 of legal payload plus your tongue weight. Tongue weight's generally going to average about 15%, or give or take another 2,000 pounds. This does come in different sizes. We commonly stock the 14 and 16 foot. It's also available in a gooseneck configuration, or you can get it with upgraded 8,000 pound axles. If you have any questions on this or any of our other trailers, feel free to give us a ring at 717-220-4220, or you can visit us on the web at bestchoicetrailers.com.